cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and all the shit you don't do. Well, I'ma make hella shit that I
What is up, wrestling card collectors? Welcome to yet another edition, episode, whatever you want to call these things, of WTC TV. Now,
What's going on?
which we'll talk about that. And we're here for another monthly edition with my good friend, Mr. Paul, the Price Guide. Anand, how are you, sir?
I'm good, man. Nice to see you. What's going on with Wrestling Cards October 2022?
Seems to be a somewhat busy month, yet also quiet month, if that makes any sense.
we don't have new records to speak of. I feel kind of disappointed, dejected. Like every month I'm like, hey guys, Hogan All-Stars, 55 grand. You know,
It'd be nice to see that every month that number just increases. Kind of cool. But
it's going to happen again. We're going to talk about later about maybe some modern stuff that one day might get there. But yeah, this was the month when we talk about our pricing, when we always focus in on the top stuff, the sexy big numbers.
of course,
we don't have anything in the 50 grand range, unfortunately, for this month. But
I think that's kind of expected, really. As we get closer to the holidays, I think less money is on your personal collections and more money is on gifts for others and things like that.
And whatever
I don't
else.
know. Just a guess.
How was your month, man? Good October?
Birthday month is always good, I guess.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. You get a little bit older, but a lot of stuff going on with me. Obviously, we'll get into that too, but signing a new lease and the whole bit.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that, your new store. We're going to talk about the expansion of the channel. I had a great October because I got to see a lot of live wrestling. I was at 3 different indie events, and then I was way up close for the AEW Dark and Rampage. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I really had a good time. When we were there was one security guy, and Tony, this guy was a fucking beast, like with nostrils flaring. And I'm looking at Hook, and some of these guys are little pipsqueak guys going by the security. And I remember at one point there was a scrum right in front of us because we were right on the railing. And my buddy Steve, he's a bit of a big mouth. He yells to the security guard, "Hey, why don't you get in there and break it up?" My buddy turns around and says, "If I get in there, nobody's coming out." You know what? I believe it.
I believe it.
Now when I watch AEW, I look for that guy to see if I can spot him, because he's got to be the meanest fucking guy I've ever seen in my life. And I was like a foot away from him the entire and just barrel chested and just like, don't say nothing to this guy.
It reminds me of the old days, like in the 90s and early 2000s, but mid to late 90s, when Porto and I used to go out to a lot of these events, and they had what we called it, I think it was the two Jimmies. You had a black Jimmy and a white Jimmy, and they were both just mean as fuck, and both like huge guys. White Jimmy was like a Stone Cold wannabe, and but they were just both built like shit brick houses, and they were just you just don't want to mess with them, and they're just you see them on TV on Monday Night Raw. It's like I see that guy at the events, I see that guy at the event, and those guys you don't want to mess with.
No,
they're there for a reason.
It's funny because I had a couple of the performers right close to me, and some of these guys are good size, but guys like Moxley and Jericho, they're not massive.
No.
And compared to this guy, like, because I saw them in context, I'm like, yeah, this security guy would dummy any of these guys in a flash. That's why he's there.
That's exactly why he's there.
Myself, if anyone's coming over this barrier to get in the way of things, I feel sorry for them.
He's a second barrier.
Yeah. Okay, so before we start talking about your exciting news, because we got a few things to talk about personally, about what you're up to, let's just bang off some of the business of the new releases and what's coming up.
Yep.
Obviously, the big release was Panini Impeccable for this month. It hit about 3 weeks ago. And you know what? We don't need to get into a lot of detail, because on the WTC channel, you've had not one but 2 shows that have absolutely thoroughly covered Impeccable every which way.
Yeah. I felt it was important too to get some people who had experience when it came to the Impeccable, and we talked a little bit about Chronicles too, what to expect from that.
And that's coming out next month.
And these are releases that as a collector myself, I've never collected any of those brands before. And I'm aware of them.
And both Ryan and Adam, they have experience in Panini in the other sports, so they're poor guys. You had them on for almost 2 hours, and they were coughing and sneezing.
You know what? It wasn't my
the screen would go blank, and then they'd come back, and I'm thinking, okay, Tony, cut them off. We get the idea. Let them go.
It wasn't my request. They thought about coming on and talking about us. It'd be good to have some people who have experience that come that know those brands. And again, like I said, I know those brand names. I just don't know how it's going to relate when it comes to wrestling. So
no, and bear in mind,
one of the experience for me too.
On the Chronicles discussion, that was all speculation. The checklist hasn't come out yet. We're just sort of educated guesses on what they expect are coming out based on past Panini releases. the Impeccable stuff, especially the last show, and I introduced Ben, a new guy to the hobby that
Mm.
I've never seen before. I think his name's Ben Johnson, which is a name up here that's synonymous.
Yes,
Yeah, I don't know if you know
Olympics.
Ben. Yeah, well, I back in keep going on these tangents. When he won the gold medal, we were all arms up in the air, and the steroid thing didn't happen for a few days after. And I wrote a record at the time, made a song, and made a little record that got played all around the city for about 3 days. I had my 5 minutes of fame called "We Still Love You, Ben" by the Soul Survivors, SEOUL. I got tons of stories like that from my past. Anyway, so I heard Ben Johnson. I'm like, no way.
No way. But
Um,
I haven't watched the episode. I have nothing to do with this. I want this to be kind of clear about that particular this new branding thing out there. We're not going to get too much into
Well,
it.
hang on,
But
let's get into that in a bit
okay,
when we
yeah, go
talk
ahead.
about the expansion of the show. I just want to finish up on Impeccable. You know,
Yeah.
not trying to avoid it, and I'll give a bit of my sort of experience with the master set collecting when I talk about Select
Sure.
later on. But yeah, like almost 3 hours of stuff that these guys have given you. So go check it out. And I guess the upshot for me, there was two things really. One, I was very interested in the discussion. They talked about how some of the higher one-of-one relics didn't have as nice pieces as in some of the ones numbered to 25, which seemed like a pretty big fuck up to me. That if you're, you know, that shouldn't be your plum pieces of relic, and there's been some real nice ones that Adam's shown.
It seems like
Um,
they made
they got
that
it backwards.
extra effort. They had an effort in Select, but they seem to kind of drop the ball on Immaculate.
Well, I think they might
Impeccable.
someone maybe in the placement of them. You know, the one-on-one stuff should always be of the highest quality, and tops was always the way. And it seemed like when they said that, I said, oh, that's interesting because I'm not going to be buying relics or autographs. I'm just buying base cards, right? So I'm not going to experience any of that stuff. So that was an interesting observation. And then really the takeaway was what Ryan said right when they were first released is that guys don't be in a hurry. And he's absolutely right with that because I've started the process now of assembling the base set, and I've gotten the cards for a few cards now for $1. And it's happened sooner than I thought it would. It's not,
This shouldn't be new news to people. I mean,
no.
as longtime collectors ourselves, and through any part of the hobby, that's always, for the most part, I shouldn't say always, but the majority of the time that is the case. That you don't have to have it if you want it right now, right away. You have to be the first guy in your block to have it.
Yeah.
You're going to pay the top prices.
Well, if you're a PC guy and you see a 1-of-1 or a 1-of-2, then yeah, jump on it because chances are you're not going to see it again.
Those are different, but we're talking about
Those are different. But if you're talking about a
bases,
guy, right, a guy like me that's going to try and collect 100 base cards, well, why am I going to jump on the first one and pay $15 a card when you know that by the time we get to the fifth one, the guy's going to be wanting to give it away, right?
Exactly.
So very, very sound advice on that, and something I could say firsthand that already that's proving to be the case. And even the boxes are coming down, you know, already. So the advice there on waiting on this stuff. I've set myself till Christmas to try and put this base set together, which was the complete opposite idea of Select, of trying to get it done as soon as possible because God knows how it's going to go. But I'd love to know. Like Panini never gives us print runs, so we don't know for a fact. And maybe Adam knows, I don't. Were the mezzanines in the retail blasters, were they harder to come by than these base cards in Impeccable? And we just don't know that. But that would be an interesting thing for you to find out because that gives you an idea of what you can reasonably get for how much and how soon or how long.
Yeah.
But you know, I always have this border thing working against me anyways. Like I see you guys, you know, buy this card and pay $2 and you get it. You know, for me, it's buy this card and give another $15 and you get it. You know, so it's difficult for me to try and buy cards one at a time. I got to find guys that have a bunch of them. Then I got to try and get on top of them to get as many as
All right, I offer my services going forward, sir. From now on, anything you want to buy, just have it shipped to my house. I will get you a bundle and I'll ship it to you.
Does that. Yeah, Chuck does that for me too. But you know, like I'm buying a lot of Impeccable base cards all of a sudden. And I know I just finished Select and I said I wasn't going to do it, but you know, someone has to try and
Hey, you know what? It's the collector in you, and that's what it's all about, man. Having fun. I mean, doing it.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about pack writing and collecting and hoarding a little bit later on.
What else came out? What other new releases?
Okay, so we had Impeccable. Then we had some of the indie stuff. We had the Pro Wrestling Junkie series. You had the show with Bo, the designer on that. Very interesting stuff. You also had the guy from the Philippines, or who was in
Indiana at the time.
Yeah, he was in the States at the time.
Illinois.
Fight Sport Manila, those series. I haven't actually seen those cards yet. I've put them on the site. There was 3 different releases of those.
Yep. Which originally it was thought there was only one, and then and then digging deeper, only found out there was 3 sets.
Right. Sentons, I think, put out a couple. And again, I'm sort of behind the times on those too, because Chuck buys them. And usually if he gets a couple, I'll get one, but I could be a few weeks behind on where they go. But I think the Senton ones are coming out in stages, just like the way Corey does his. Let me just say, while I mentioned his name, that set is fucking killer.
I love that set so much.
The Corey Bastien set day, one day, you know, I have 106 WCW autographs. That's my favorite autograph set. You know what my number 2 is? My ECW is from Corey Bastine, because when they come in, it allows me to go back and get those ECW cards that were never put out at the time.
Yep.
And I don't care if the people that sign them were in their prime 20 years ago. These cards are a wonderful addition to the hobby.
I love
And
them.
I commend them, you know, I commend them on keeping at them and keeping them coming out. And I told him the other day, I said, Corey, you know, assume that if you get an ECW card signed, I want one. So that's an automatic, because
Yep.
the way it is that every so often, oh, I should check in with Corey. It's like microballers. Oh, I better check and see if there's anything new, you know, and get caught up that way. But there's so much of it, you know, trying to collect select, trying to stay on top of so many different facets of the hobby. It gets tricky. But yeah, kudos to Corey Bastien and that autograph set. It's fucking great.
I've told him several times through messages that I said, you know, your set is one of the few, if only, sets that makes me want to get back in there collecting something that's beyond my PC. Like,
Yeah,
I like what he's doing. I like
I was an early adopter. I got in those first few, and now I've got enough
simple
that keep me.
designs,
Yeah,
which is great. And just the effort he's putting into for the hobby
yeah.
is just, it's fun. I just think it's
Yeah,
great.
that one with Shockmaster, Tugboat,
Oh,
and
great, isn't it?
that's an awesome. You know, like there's just great stuff being made. And what was the one that I just ordered from him? Was it Son of Sandman? You know,
Oh
something
yeah,
like
the kid, yeah,
yeah, and or an ECW sign guy.
yeah,
You know, like great stuff, great
yeah.
stuff.
It's good
Anyways,
stuff.
we haven't even started yet, and we're off topic in about 9 different directions. So Fight for Manila, Sentons. Oh, and the major figure podcast guys, they put out
Yeah,
FWF 4 or no 3, I guess.
three.
Yeah. So this is their second set. I posted those this morning. So you've got the checklist now, and you've got an image, so you should be good to
Yeah,
go.
yeah. Had a
And
checklist.
there's a
I think I'm pretty sure I think Chuck just sent me a checklist a couple days ago too. So,
right.
but
So
I
that's
haven't
in the
quite.
files to
Yeah.
do. And then so that's what we had this month. And then on the coming soon's file, we've got Panini Chronicles. And
Yeah.
again, that was discussed prior this month on your show.
Mhm.
And AEW Spectrum question mark. You know,
Yeah.
is it going to come this month? And I think we touched upon this last year. Panini's cranking them out like motherfuckers,
Yeah.
and Spectrum was waiting. So you got to wonder, like, if it is one printing facility down in Texas, you know, certainly Panini's greased the wheel, so to speak, because they're getting their stuff made. And it seems like AEW, you know, the AEW stuff could be printed and sitting in a warehouse for all we know, and we don't know what the logjam is there.
Yeah.
But we do know that each month we're like, no AEW, and there's only been the one set so far this year, whereas we're on Panini set number 6. I did
Do
the
you think that delays in this release, in your opinion, do you think the delays in the release for AEW products, do you think the momentum from that first release has really died down now? The excitement level?
Well, if there wasn't Panini going on at the same time, I would say no. But because there is, yes, you know, like Panini has dominated so much of the conversation in the hobby. They've really raised the game, not for themselves within other sports, but within our hobby. We haven't seen cards like this before.
Mhm.
We haven't seen this level of parallel. We haven't seen this level of base. We haven't seen this level of outside people coming in. We haven't seen this level of controversy from within our hobby,
Yeah.
which has been created. You know, so certainly Panini was game changing in many respects. Upper Deck was anticipated. You know, we were looking forward to finally getting AEW on cards. We got them. There were some big cards. The dotted lines and those things did well. But we'll look at the numbers and see where they're at now. But yeah, we need that Spectrum release. I'm sure once it hits, like AEW is still big. MJF is going to be the champion in a week or two. You know, it's going to be a success. But has the momentum died down? Maybe a little. You know, and
I'm just wondering if people's trust and faith in the product as a brand, so like that for trading cards, has gone down to the point where I don't know. I'm
You
kind of
can't
speculating.
keep promising that something's coming and it doesn't. Now, of course,
Yeah.
we live in these times now where post-COVID, you know, a lot of things in the supply chain has been effective. And again, we spoke about this last time around. Billy, very nice guy that's giving of his time to us and letting us know as best he can. He took the question head on from the Card Foundation guys, and he said, "Look, you know, we're just dealing with what many other companies and many other industries are dealing with, right?" And I get that, except Panini doesn't seem to be having these troubles at the moment. So, you know, anyways, you know, maybe there's going to be AEW. I think it is slated, in fact, for November.
I think as of this
We could be here in a
morning,
month's time saying maybe for Christmas.
well, as we're recording right now, I believe a tweet was put out this morning that said now it's December.
Oh, really? So there you go.
I believe.
I didn't see that tweet
I
yet.
will double check as you're talking. I will double check.
Yeah, but It'll be when it'll be, and we'll talk about it, and it'll get looked at that time.
Let's have a look here. It's like that. So I don't know. I thought I retweeted something. Maybe I did.
Anyway, so you
What else we got?
okay, so we're gonna have some exciting announcements about Tony Vella, and not so much in the wrestling trading card world, but you personally, we're gonna talk about your new store that's opening.
I don't
But
know if
before that,
anybody
we're gonna
cares
talk
about
about the
that, to be honest with
expansion. Well, we're gonna hit it, people, inquiring minds want to know. But we're going to talk about the expansion of WTC TV, this channel that we've been doing, or
Yeah.
we've been doing our monthly show on, that you've had going now for the better part of 2 years. You've had a plethora of guests, and I thank you again. I think you've done a wonderful service for the hobby insofar as getting people's perspectives, people from around the world, people from different segments of the hobby, wrestlers themselves.
In the
It's
beginning,
here.
that seemed to be a good thing. As of late, it seems to be like, depending on who you have on as a guest or who you talk to, now can drive, continue to drive a wedge in the hobby a little bit like that. It's never meant to be that way. It's always just meant to be have people's perspectives. And I've been very blunt and very open about it, even on social media, by saying everybody and anybody who ever wants to voice their knowledge, their opinion of something, you are more than welcome to send me a DM and say, I want to be on, I disagree with this, or I want to talk about that because I don't think it's being talked about enough. But those people usually don't take it up on the offer. They just
Right.
want to use social media.
Let's talk about, just so people are clear, that this isn't a show with you like we do here, or like you do
No,
normally. This
if we
is
talk
the
about
opportunity to do your own show, whether it be just you
correct,
looking into the screen, or you like Adam did with his first one, which debuted this past weekend, and it's him, and this was one I just referred to on the Impeccable.
which, by the way, so as a full disclaimer on that, by the way, these other episodes have nothing to do with me. I'm giving a platform for people to go ahead, or a place that they want to provide content. We've always been big,
Right.
especially like Zan and I have been talking about for damn near 2 years as well too. Of just like, we want to see more content, and there's people who don't want to have the
So to be
responsibility of
clear,
running
you're
our
not
channel.
editing them or
I have
editorializing them in
I have
any which
nothing to
way.
do with editing. I don't do any graphic work. I do no editing. Matter of fact, I don't even have access. I mean, I have access to it from the admin, but
So you don't
um,
watch it until it's up.
I don't even watch it. To be honest with you, I don't
Right.
watch it.
All
I
right.
don't
So
even,
tell me this, brother. What happens when someone comes on a show and starts bashing someone,
then I
or
have then I have to step in as the admin of that. I have to step in and say, you know what, this is not right, and then they're removed from the channel. I
that's
don't.
what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
So
I'm not going to
there
condone.
is a standard.
Yeah, there's 100%.
This isn't for people to come on and start slogging,
No, not at all.
it's not that.
Nobody has the right to come on there and take that platform and use it as a podium for them to go up there and start attacking certain people or anything
No
else.
one's looking to spread hate.
Yeah, the shit that when that shit starts happening, if it started happening tonight, boom, done. All the episodes are deleted and gone. They're gone. They're just gone.
Fair enough.
I don't have I don't
I'm
care
happy to
if
hear
you're
that.
I don't care if you're on this side of the fence or that side of the fence. We're here to educate and help collectors have an understanding. Whether you agree with the positions that people have and how they collect, that's completely up to you. But as so long as no one is being talked about, like, f these guys over here and f that. I made this comment to you privately about a message that was posted not too long ago, I guess the other day, about bashing, and I disagree with it. I don't believe there's that having an opinion about a product and how it looks, photography used, that's called an opinion. That's not bashing. And I think I tweeted you or I texted you and said, my example is I hate Ford Mustangs. That's an opinion.
Yep.
And the people who drive them are fucking assholes. That's bashing. There's a big difference. Big difference. So we are allowed to have opinions about releases. Like, I don't like the color schemes. I don't like the photography. I hate action shots. I like this. I don't like that. I mean, you're allowed to have those opinions. 100%.
But the reality, unfortunately, is you being the purveyor of a channel, is that you're saying, okay, I'm not going to add my slant to anything. So I'm not going to become Fox News and I'm going to have guests that they're all going to be on one side of the equation or the other. But unfortunately, when you have certain people on, not everybody likes everybody in the hobby, and you are going to turn some people off.
Yep.
You're saying very clearly they're allowed to be on there so long as they behave.
As long as they behave. Once they start going, once they
and
start
I'm
going
okay
off
with
the hand,
that.
yeah. Once they start
I'm
going
okay
off the
with that. But if
handle
all of a
and
sudden, if all of a sudden the tone goes wrong and everything, and the discussion becomes derogatory, that's when I say, well, hang on a second, Tony. You can't hide behind this. You have to speak up and say, if it's all good information that's for the benefit of the hobby, awesome.
Yeah.
We all benefit from that. But if it's someone giving his opinions, which is meant to upset someone because he doesn't like them, that's entirely different.
Yeah, I'm not hosting a talk show to talk about Jerry Springer show for you to go on there and try to create dramas like that. You can come on and have your opinions. You can have your opinions about a product. I don't think that you should be using the platform to go out and start bashing people for how they collect, because we all collect differently. And whether you're a modern guy or a vintage guy, it doesn't matter. You still have to have fun doing it, and you shouldn't have to attack somebody who doesn't collect or agree with the way you collect. But if you're going to go on there and talk about, a particular product line, or how you feel about the market pricing going on, or how you feel, that's all fine and good. It's informational stuff. The second you start attacking people, that's where I draw the line. We can't tolerate that. We
Good.
can't tolerate. We're not in position to do that.
I just wanted to make that clear only because you said that, you have nothing to do with it and it's their own platform.
Correct.
Yes, it's your own platform, but you're being watched.
You're being watched, of course. It's like when you start changing your name and calling yourself WTC TV Network. Now you have a responsibility, which is I knew this going in. I knew that if I allow people to have, if I allow Caleb, or I allow Adam, or I allow Pack, or I allow anybody to have a voice to talk about and have this channel, that I'm become like this. I'm the guy who has to oversee his TV station, his radio station, sort of like monitoring what's going on there. It's like that. I don't have time to watch everything, but trust me, people are going to be very vocal about what they see or what they hear. And
you're going to hear about it soon enough.
I'm going to hear about it soon enough.
You're going to hear about it. If not from me, you're going to hear about it soon enough. I mean, these things come to the surface very quickly. If all of a sudden things are getting said that rub people the wrong way, and that's again, look, I'll be perfectly blunt. I rubbed Adam Gelman the wrong way last show. And, I was concerned about it afterwards, and you told me we were good. And as it turns out, he was a little bit upset with me. Unfortunately, we were able to sort of work it out to a point where we understand, okay, here's a safe space for both of us to sort of exist in the hobby and not want to destroy each other. But you're going to get that, and not everyone's going to be as quick to try and figure out a smooth solution to these things. Some people are just going to say, fuck this, I'm out. You know what I mean? I'm not going to follow. I'm not going to follow that guy. It's easy to unfollow someone when you don't get along with them anymore.
Sure.
But then the problem is that
it's just like real life. I don't have to talk to you it's like real life. I don't have to hang out with you in person either if I don't like you.
You know what? Zen, God bless him, did one of his things, and I think it was past month, and it was all of 5 minutes. And believe me, normally it takes him more than 5 minutes just to set up each of his episodes. And in that 5 minutes, he basically said, look, you do you, and there's going to be other people that are going to say stuff that piss you off. You don't have to agree with them. And if they really set you off the wrong way, unfollow them. But that's it. There's no point for you to be in this hobby otherwise if you're going to be bothered by this shit. And he's absolutely right. 100%. And I think that's an important thing,
At the end of the day, I have to look at the core people that I work with on a daily basis when it comes to doing WTC stuff, which anybody wants to go out and do their own thing, by all means, go right ahead. I know the work and effort that I put into the site itself over the last 20 plus years. So, but the only people I have to really concern myself on a daily basis is going to be you and Chuckster, and Armand to a certain extent too, because you guys are the core archivers of information. None of us individually has any time to do this 24/7 on our own. No one's paying us to do it.
Well, I said this to Anthony the other day. The whole thing works when we cooperate. As soon as we get competitive 100%. With each other, that's when it breaks down.
Yep.
Right? And he agrees.
The competitiveness and I'm going to show you, or I'm going to be the best at this. That only hurts the hobby. Overall, it hurts the hobby. It doesn't help at all by any means. When you start saying, well, don't follow this person and don't talk to that person and stop using that as a resource and start using me only, you create a divide and it hurts the hobby. So people, if you're going to get upset and you're going to have this mindset of like, I want to be the number one, I want to be this, I want to be that, it doesn't help the hobby at all. No. You're actually hurting the hobby more than you could possibly know.
And I'll be the first to say that, you guys listen to us and we appreciate it, but there's WrestlingTradingCards.com that everyone knows about. There's a wrestling card price guide, but there also is a Husker Halves. There also is Nick Kaufman's Crazy Card Collector.
Yep.
And then there's the stuff outside of our world, Trading Card Ladder, the databases and that stuff. Yeah. Like we're not the be all and end all, and we're not suggesting for a second that, because this is our thing that you want to only, we include those other guys, but it's important to understand that we share information. We rely on each other. There's a lot of stuff, you were gone for 5 years. Yep. And when you're gone for 5 years, Chuck and I had to figure out how to keep it going. And we did so by online, but we had the help of Nick. We had the help of Armand. They were still on your forums when you weren't.
Oh, I know.
And Anthony in there as well. You know,
Yeah.
so this is a sum total kind of thing that's come together with the hard work of all of us. So that's why it's important for me to maintain, at least like you said, our sense of community, because guys, you don't get this if we don't keep this going. You know, like it's important for us. Anyways, enough about
Yeah.
that. If you want to express your opinion on something that you didn't like that I said, or Tony said, or Adam Gelman said, or anything, by all means, the door is open for you to get in touch with Tony or me, and we'll set it up. You know, you just can't be nasty.
Well,
That's all.
even if you don't,
Behave
even
yourself.
if you don't want to do it, an episode for our YouTube channels like that, by all means, just DM me. I'll
Yeah,
give you my phone number and we can talk. Like
sure.
I despise having disagreements or arguments or long conversations via text when I could just pick up the phone and call you. We could talk it like a couple of men, and I'd rather do
No,
that.
that's the only way, because
Yep.
unfortunately texts don't convey,
No, there's
the
no feelings
sentiment.
and emotions through emails and text messages. I
Yeah,
don't.
because immediately if someone's pissed off at me, I can tell if I'm when I'm speaking to them, but I don't know when to text. You know
Sure.
what I mean?
So
Anyways,
I mean, it's sad to me that our hobby has gotten to this point. But when you grow and you want to grow and you want to be acknowledged, as I keep saying, these things start to happen. I mean, and
yeah,
I
and
get
some
it.
of it now, I'm accepting, like some people just don't like each other. There's just too much
Sure.
water under the bridge, and these things aren't going to fix. You know, like it's not that you and I are going to sit here and come up with a way to get everyone to kumbaya and join hands.
Yeah,
That's
it's not my
not going to happen.
responsibility.
So long as there's people out there that harbor not ill will, but they don't follow each other anymore, or they just had a disagreement. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about rock prisms. There are gold prisms, which I think is the sort of crux, or where the fissure was, if you will.
Sure.
But
Let
it's
me
not fixable.
let me close off about the WTC TV expansion
Yeah,
like that.
please.
It's something it's been talked about now for well over a year. I've been toying with it and toying with it. I've been talking to I reached out to several different people who were like, yeah, I'd love to do it. I'd love to do it. And the concept of it was to get other people to have a voice to talk about what they specialize in. Like I would love to have Caleb on and have his stuff put on
And
a
in,
channel, but it's up to him. And he's agreed to it multiple times.
and Rich in
Um,
an Asian show would be great.
yeah, I mean, it would be great. So, what it does is I'm thinking of myself in the sense that it alleviates a lot of pressure for me to have to put out a weekly episodic type of
It's hard
thing.
for you to chase down these guests. I get it.
It
It's not easy.
is. It took me over a year to get Alan Gordon from Comic Images to
Yeah,
come on.
it's not easy.
And so, I'm still trying to hunt down, Brian from Leafs like that.
Yeah.
I love to have these guys on
Oh, I see.
once in
You
a time.
text you tweet them often.
Sure. Just trying to goad him into agreeing to what he already agreed to do, which was talk to
You
me
know how
first
it
in
is.
Nashville.
Remember Bodie the Kid? Oh yeah, I'll be here. Yeah, I'll be on the show. Sure. And then we never
Well,
hear
I
from
mean,
him.
that's that particular one specifically. That's on me. I haven't really followed up, but
But
with
the
Brian,
point
like
is
that, I have.
everyone's willing, but
And so it's just it helps alleviate my time. I have a lot going on as we know we're going to talk about a little bit, I guess. But I just don't want the content that's there to be like just stagnant and sits there, and then you wait every month or 2 months before I
yeah.
put something else out. Like you and I will always do these monthly recaps. That's the bare. If I had to do a bare minimum, this is the bare minimum that I would do. But if I have other people
We'll do
creating
it so long
content,
as people want us to do it. Like we'll know when
sure,
people are tired of us and this doesn't make sense anymore and we're just talking to ourselves.
yeah.
You know.
But I
But
enjoy doing these.
until
I get
then,
to
here
see
we are.
you. I get to see you. We get to hang out. We're good friends.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'll keep doing these, whether I'm going to be doing from home or doing from the store. It
Yep.
doesn't matter. But people have always had an open door policy with me to come and talk, whether it be privately, whether it be you wanted to submit some sort of video to expand, the network, as it were. It was just a funny idea calling it the network, and like a place to go to for all your wrestling trading card
But it's
type
good though.
needs.
Like for example, Rich Veligan's coming up to Toronto in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to go see him, and I'm going to see if I can't take a little 5 minute short
Excellent,
one. You
excellent.
know what I mean? Just these things are good. So, anyways, that was a great segue, if
Sure.
whether you intended to or not. But you talked about your store,
Yep.
and here we are. We're there. You got the keys.
I signed the
There
lease.
actually is going to be a Tony Vella wrestling card store, collectible store.
My birthday was this past Friday the 28th, and that day it happened to be the same day that the property management company came down to meet me at the store. We
Yeah.
signed the paperwork, wrote them a check. I picked up the keys last night. They came and dropped it off to me last night. I officially have the store as of today. We're recording right now. Today is my first day of having the store. As soon as we're done recording, I'm going to start breaking some stuff down behind me and start moving into the store. And wife and I are actively looking for supplies, grid, counter space. I mean, looking for places to find them. I'm on a budget, so I got to try and get them on the budget without, looking like I'm opening up a yard sale. And then, we're just, it's happening. It's just, it's kind of unreal. Talked about it for
Take
well over
take
a
lots
year.
of pictures. Take befores and afters,
Oh
like
yeah,
when you first go through that door, let's see what it looks like bare. And then let's see what it looks like when all the stuff from storage kind of
it's
hits the floor.
it's
Then let's
yeah.
see it when it's
It's going to be a progression. It's going to take a while
sure.
before it gets, full of stuff. I mean, a lot of that money that I've raised so far through, and again, through selling cards, mind you, is going as my capital, and a lot of
Right,
that capital has gone into insurance, first month and deposit, and this and that. It's everything but product, and
right,
so I'm going to have a really shoestring budget, and it's going to give me an opportunity really to go through my entire storage unit, start yanking stuff out of there, because I'm going to start filling in the holes of where merchandising stuff of just odds and end wrestling stuff if I whatever I find.
right.
Basic. I'm going to have all the base card sets that I've been buying off of Chuckster and off of Zan and what I've gotten over the years from people, and just kind of put it all together and give a space for everything I can possibly do. And you know I've got stuff coming from the Wrestling Guy store in Los Angeles is sending me a bunch of their overstock stuff. A lot of stuff like the Rock action figures and Brock Lesnar action figures and two-pack action figures. And I've been picking up stuff around, around the town for, exclusives and stuff, and finding all different kinds of little figures that I don't know this market very well, so I'm learning it
Well, you're
as I
gonna
go
find out.
along. And I'm relying on people who know a lot about the wrestling action figure market. That's gonna be my bread and butter.
Right.
It's gonna be action figures and modern action figures, not so much vintage stuff and classic stuff, but modern stuff, because my customer base is going to be primarily a lot of kids. But I'm also conscious of the fact that those kids have parents, and those parents were probably fans of the
Might
Attitude
you
Era.
might you might have to add a new segment to WTC talking about action figures.
Probably, maybe. I mean, I'm not gonna.
Rumor has it that the guys that do figure podcasts do pretty good for themselves.
It sounds like it, yes.
Yeah.
And they do. They already do a top-notch job, man. There's I just start referring to them. Maybe I start doing more podcast listening on their channel and learn a thing or two over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's exciting. It's nervous. I'm nervous and I'm excited at the same time.
Well, from
It's
everyone here, the whole wrestling card community wishes you nothing but good luck. We hope that it's a
appreciate it.
success. And, once it's up and running, I'm going to come down and see you. I'll surprise you for a weekend.
I would love it, man. Come on down. Anybody, come on down to Phoenix, Arizona, man. I'm gonna be on off of 35th and Bell Avenue, off the 101 freeway in Phoenix, like that. So
Awesome. Well, just make
check
sure
it
you
out.
tweet all that shit out so we
Oh,
know
of
what
course. Yeah.
pictures and
Everybody can
whatnot.
follow those. I mean, I have the Wrestling Guy store. The website is sort of up. It's a free version. So it's like the wrestlingguystore.com/GoDaddy, kind of
Right.
thing. I haven't paid for the full version of it yet, but that's coming.
Right.
But I have all the social media. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter. But I'll be making announcements. I'll have in-store appearances from people as well. And I'm already talking to a couple of local people here who live here in Phoenix to see if they want to come for the grand opening.
Well, we know you can get Devon.
Oh, Devo would be good. Yeah. I don't know if I want to fly him in just yet. Until I get a budget.
He was all over it when we mentioned it to him at that lunch.
He sure was, wasn't he? But
Yeah.
we're gonna try and coordinate something like that. Like the goal here is, since I don't consider Arizona West Coast. Some do, but I don't consider it West Coast. I'm not on the West Coast. But Wrestling Guys to Los Angeles. We're gonna work in coordinate things together. And like, so maybe he'll have a signing of somebody of a talent on Saturday, then I'll get him on a Sunday or vice versa.
Right.
We help split the cost of bringing
That's
that
good.
person out. So
Good.
we just help each other out.
Very
With
cool.
ordering. We're going to order direct from Mattel and WWE, well, from Fanatics now.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, make sure on our monthlies, every so often I'll say, so how's the store doing? And give it 5 minutes. Let us know what's going on in
Sure.
there. Is it figures? Is it frisbees? Is it t-shirts? Is it cards? Let
I
us
might
know.
have to start creating my own spreadsheet, like do my monthly recap
Yeah.
of what's the big sellers and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's interesting information.
'Cause I,
Anyways, best of luck with that.
thank you.
Let's keep carrying on with wrestling cards. What else we got? We got our top sales and our index. So I just want to talk quickly about the Select Master set. Chuck and I both did finish it this month. It was a masterpiece.
Congratulations on that. That was an effort.
Yeah. When it first came out, we didn't think it would be possible. Then when it did become apparent to us that you could get dollar cards or low dollar cards and get all the way there, it just became an exercise in patience and try to figure out how to get it in as few shipments as possible. It's the same thing I'm working through again with Impeccable. but it's doable, and we did it. And same thing to Impeccable. It's doable, and I'll do it. Maybe not with the same sort of frequency or fervor as I did Select, but you know, for those that said it wasn't possible, I know there's a couple other people out there, you know, chime in, let us know who you are, that have managed to put together all 400 pieces. I tip my hat that I'm not wearing to you. Heck of an accomplishment.
It's not easy, and I mean, you and Chuck are testament to that. So I mean, I'm living through you guys on how that adventure is. And it seemed like it's a lot of work, as
Well,
expected.
it's not something I'm used to,
Yeah.
put it that way. Having had this of every master set or every set that's ever been made, I'm used to them just showing up and making their way to the wall and me putting them on, and that's it, you know. Never mind. I mean, even in the aftermath, a bunch of them got lost. Chuck and I at one point had a bit of confusion as to whether they were for his set or my set, where these cards were going into. We got it all sorted out, you know. And again, I couldn't have done it without Chuck. He could have done it without me, but I could not have done it without Chuck. So thanks again to you, buddy. It was fantastic. All right, let's bang off some of the numbers and shit that people actually tune in to watch us for. You know, do top sales first.
Go to top sales, sure.
Yeah, let's do top sales first. So sorry, guys, no record this month. I don't have a Cosmos or a All-Star for you in the 50 grand range. A Hulk Hogan Wrestling All-Stars was our top sale, 56.50 for a PSA 6. So that gives you an idea there. And then the rest of the stuff is pretty well modern. We got 2002 Steve Austin Select Black, 1 of 1, 56.35. This next one has a little asterisk beside it. This was the biggest number we got so far on the Impeccable, the new one that just came out. But Adam doesn't believe that it's actually been paid for. And this is the $5,500 Undertaker Impeccable Hall of Fame autograph. At the time it came out, a couple of other ones subsequently came out, or one or two, and they sold more in the 2 grand range. So we were suspect about that number. I haven't seen it come back up yet for sale. And that's normally the surefire sign is that something gets a number, then you see that that same piece got $3,000 less a week later. So maybe that's still coming, but that's a dubious one. Even though I kept it in the record because we don't know for a fact that it didn't happen, we're not sure that it did. We'll update you guys on that
Sure.
next month, let you guys know what the highest Impeccable sale ended up being. But for the record,
Crazy
that's it now.
Crazy, it already got graded too, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Turnaround time was
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. Think about that, huh? Like you put your stuff in at the National and you just got them back last week.
Yep.
I wondered about that.
Well, I'm sure they probably paid for Express. So
Yeah, that kind of thing. Like I was wondering, how does a Hall of Fame autograph that got pulled last week get graded this week? But whatever. Maybe you know somebody. What else we got? We got
another Undertaker card. Yep.
Another Undertaker Prism White Sparkle, and those are beautiful. Those, you know, I'm a Prism base guy. I have all the base cards. I have the insert cards. But long time ago, when it started to get so expensive to buy these cards one at a time, I stopped on the relics and on the autographs. I have thousands of them still from the Fleer era and the Top era, but I just don't buy them anymore. And I would have to say that if I was going to blow the bank on anything on Prism on the upper end, it would be on these White Sparkles. They're absolutely gorgeous. One of the nicest cards I've ever seen. And you know, sometimes people say, "Oh, you're anti-Prism because you don't believe in their value," and we'll talk about that in a bit. But no, I really like the Panini product. Certainly, you know, I like Select a little better, not just because I got all 400, but I just thought that the mix was better there. You know, and I do like these Impeccables. They're on their way now, and I'm just getting started with them. But again, I'm just a base card guy. You know, one of the few guys that is going to say at the end of the year that he's probably got all the base cards from the year from Panini. But I think the cards are great. You know, when Fanatics comes in and Mike Rubin runs everything, then perhaps we'll be pining for the days that we don't have these Panini cards. But I'll tell you, they've been fucking expensive. I spent a lot of money this year on Panini. You know. I don't want to say how much because I don't know how much because I really don't want to know. I don't want to push the equals button. It's just not been good. Next on the list, we got a Randy Savage Select Black 1 of 1, $3,200. And I think we know who the proud owner of that card is. I had a feeling I knew who the proud owner of that card was before I even asked, but congrats to Jamie Wallace on getting that one. And that's a great one. A 1 of 1 black is always nice with your PC. 2022 Alexa Bliss Black 1 of 1 PSA 10 for 37.10. I understand she won the tag titles last night. I haven't watched.
But I heard, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't watched the Raw from last night yet, but apparently that happened. Roman Reigns auto logo patch 1 of 1, and that's an Impeccable, by the way. $3,500. 2022 Andre the Giant Impeccable Gold Bar, 3,000. Now, what do you think about those gold bars and silver bars?
Um, I think it's a cool concept. I know it's gimmicky stuff.
Yeah,
To me, it would have been a little bit nicer had they been like shaped like a belt or something like that, or something
right. Well, they've done those
wrestling
before.
themed.
They've
Yeah,
done
they
those
did.
belt cards,
Yeah, they did it before, and I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of bland about. It. I'm like, yeah, not a
Three
big
grand
deal.
though, like 3 grand, like that. You know,
Well,
fight about
it's
fight
got two
about
things
the
going for
Undertaker,
it.
but that's the most expensive card so far in the set. You
Well,
know,
it's kind of a combination of a couple of things. Right? It's a one of one, and it's
yeah,
Andre. So it's of course.
it's Andre,
Yeah,
and it's Andre. You
that's
know,
right.
put more that it's Andre than anything else. I think.
Correct.
You know, and then we got another great one, the 2022 Impeccable Brock Lesnar autograph Hall of Fame, and this was only numbered to 2. So, you know, if you see this card and you passed on it, you're not seeing it again. And there are a lot of Brock PC guys out there.
Yep.
And this went for 27.16. And people might say, well, that's not that big a number. I say, no, it's a big number. It's a big number. Like these you know, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 with monthly regularity now, you know, for wrestling is good.
It's
We never saw these times before, you
no.
know. So
Mm-mm.
Panini, you know, good, bad, or indifferent, they've certainly raised the bar product wise, quality wise, and value wise. There's no doubt about that, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Okay.
So and lastly, we have 2022 Liv Morgan Select Black. You know, a year ago, Liv Morgan probably wouldn't have gotten this number, but God bless her, she went and won the title. And 2609 for Liv Morgan. And that's not something we would have foreseen a year ago, but
No, no, no,
there it is, you know.
no.
So
It's
again, no massive numbers, but again, when our number 10 is still $2,600 for Liv Morgan, it's been a good month.
yeah, it's still a decent month. I mean, we have seen some decent, good numbers across the board here. It wouldn't be a top 10 list without some wrestling all star. It's like that.
Of course not.
That's king, man, and it's undeniable when we see it in the list, a top 10 every single month. It's just undeniable, and that stuff's just going to keep going up in value. It's good to see these numbers. I enjoy seeing these numbers. It just validates a lot of years of collecting, and that
Sure.
we are to be taken seriously as
And
trading card lovers.
obviously an overwhelming number of new stuff of Panini.
Yeah,
You
this
know,
is like all of this. This entire list is
yeah,
all modern, with the exception of
yeah.
number one.
You know, Select, Impeccable, Prism, Select, you know, all. But again, Wrestling All Star sitting at the top.
Always,
Yeah.
always. I mean, almost always. I mean, there's a couple of
Almost.
exceptions, but
Yeah.
we had a Cosmos one month like that. But for the
Yeah,
most
but
part, it
still above
always is a
average.
Wrestling All Stars, which is,
Pretty much.
I think, that should be expected within our hobby. That's just
Yeah, and we're going to get into a conversation about the gold prisms in a bit, where we're going to compare them to these ones. But let's just finish off with our index, and then we can get into that. So our index is where we look at the same things, guys, month after month, and we just kind of do a quick snapshot and see where they've gone from one month to the next. The 2021 AEW Hobby Box, we started at the beginning of the year when it hit. We've been looking at it all throughout the year. We noticed last month that it slipped a little bit down to like $103, but it actually gained a bit of ground. And you can see the early days 250, and it sat at 200 the longest time. But what did I do here? Yeah, you can see now it's down to like or it's up actually 113 from 103, but it's around the low $100 a box. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And then we look at the base set. The base set was at about $35 average. It came down a little bit last month, but it buzzed back up. And it probably buzzed back up because there's only like 5 of them. When you only have a half a dozen sales and one guy pays $50 for them, that's going to raise up your average. But
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
gone.
we had a consistent sales of multiple, with the exception of maybe that.
Yeah, look,
one right there.
27, 43, 35, 36, 35. So 35 is where they seem to coalesce as a base set. But we changed last month. We should have done this obviously in the beginning of the year when they were up over the $1,000 range. But last couple of months, I've been watching the Prism boxes just to see how low they're really going to go, because people have suggested that they're not going below 250. Absolutely not, you know. And yet here they go. They've dropped down now to 224.85 from a high of what, $1,800, Tony?
Yeah, at one point I think it was some of that price range of $1,500.
Someone paid that somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
You know, we were being told that $1,000 a box, you better run, you know.
Yeah.
But still dropping. Are they going to keep dropping?
I'm gonna stick to my original one we statement when we talked about
$200 a
this.
box?
Suggested retail by Panini when these first came out was 150.
Yeah. So when it hits that, you're going to say, okay, it took them a year to get there, but they got there.
It took them a year to get there, but they got there. Yeah. So it's not surprising. Not saying it is. It's going to go that low. It would not surprise me if it did go that low.
No, me neither. Me neither.
But
Me neither.
in
I
reality,
mean, we've seen it.
if I had
We've
to
seen
roll
it
the
go down,
dice
down,
and
down,
just-
down.
I like to roll a dice and just think that it's going to sit somewhere on a for a little while. I'm going to say that $200 price point range where it's going to be at for a little bit.
That seems like a reasonable guess to me.
It's just that
1985 Topps Hulk Hogan card. We've been watching this one for a long time, and
we
it's
started.
usually around a $40 card, and there it is, $41.38.
Yep.
Up a little bit from the last 2 years. But if you look at the individual sales, 20, 40, 50, 53, 45, it's funny that one day something goes for $20 and then a day later it goes for 50, the exact same card. But that's the nature of eBay.
That's the nature of eBay. It's who's looking and win.
Yeah, man. It depends on when you get on and who was else on. Like I'm finding this too with the Impeccable base cards, like sometimes someone will put on an auction and it's a 24-hour auction and people miss it. And I go in there and I've just snagged 6 cards for like $1.50 a piece.
Yep.
Then the next day I hop onto something that's been a 5-day auction and that same card is $10 and I pass on it. You know what I mean? So a lot of it has to do with timing, really.
Yep.
1991 WCW Impel base set. Your set, 25, 25, and 17. So, $22.33. So in around that $20 still, but just not as many of them as we used to see. Yeah, man, we used to be guaranteed easy.
Look at all these back, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months ago. I mean,
we never had we never had a problem getting 10 sales a month of the Impels.
And why do you think that is now?
Maybe because we've talked it up so much. The same thing with the Royal Rumbles. But I want to talk about this Royal Rumble. You see what happened down here in the Royal Rumble?
I know, that is incredible.
Somebody scored well there because they were north of 200 for the longest time. And that's the Royal Rumble set with the Cena and the Brock and Orton and Batista base rookies. Look at 195, 237, 258. These were paid sales. People forgot about them. They think, oh, they're not available. Well, one smart guy or gal woke up one morning and snagged one for $80, a complete base set.
That's incredible.
You could probably make your money back just in the Cena now. Like if you put up just the Cena at $80, you might get it.
Yeah, probably. But that, I saw a post about that recently on Twitter. I think someone talked about, the value of that card has dropped dramatically. I know that we're in a soft market right now when it comes to a lot of the cards itself, but that one card in particular seems to drop considerably to where it was before. And a lot of that has to do too with the buzz about that card. I think when there was only X amount at PSA, for grades, and all of a sudden that number almost doubles.
Right.
It's just not quite as special as it used to be, I think.
No. Yeah. So that's it. Shut her down. That's that's our index. There's been talk about the hobby on a bit of a low point. I mean, it's November, and we often notice going into Christmas that unfortunately it's not like everything else that goes up at Christmas time. Cards kind of go down because people don't buy cards for each other. We buy them for ourselves, and now
Sure.
I have to, we have to go buy presents for people and what have you. I might buy a set or two less or what have you.
Yeah, when I was set up for years and years at the Frank and Son Collectible Show in California, that was always my slow time of the year, was towards the end of October, definitely beginning of November through December. I didn't start seeing sales increases until like the second, third week of January, and really start seeing sales increase by the second or third week of February, because I started getting Christmas money. People who got money for Christmas,
Right.
Or and I started seeing tax return money,
Right.
coming in.
Yeah.
And that's when I started seeing sales come in.
Right.
But holidays, no. I mean, I would never go out and say, you know what? For Christmas, I'm going to buy Paul this, because I don't know what the hell to get you, because you collect for yourself.
Maybe you'll buy me a wrestling card.
I'll get you a.
All right, my friend. You want to get into the good stuff now?
Go for it. This is all good stuff, people. It's all good stuff.
Wow, the juicy stuff. We want to start.
Do we not already have juicy stuff about it?
No, there's more juicier stuff coming because we're going to start talking about people. People like that kind of thing. People always stop to look at a train wreck.
I get it. I get that.
I want to raise a point now. I want to have a discussion now that that I believe is at the crux of all the dissension that's happening in the hobby.
Okay.
Maybe not all of it. Let me say on a side note, Rob England, Uncle Danny, that's a different animal. That. But from what I can see, with everybody else, with people that used to be friends that aren't anymore, with people that just don't groove with each other in the hobby. A lot of it for me, now that we've seen Select come out and Revolution come out, in enough Panini product, enough time has passed. It's been 6 months. It's fair to say that the gold Panini Prism is going to be the most valuable in the wrestling card world. But the question becomes, is it the most valuable card? And Adam Gilman put out a quote that I copied, and I apologize that I didn't put his name on it. I should have. And basically what I was doing was I was trying to fish and see what do people think. Like I got my opinions. Adam has his opinions, and of course the vintage guys have theirs. I wanted to sort of take the temperature of the hobby, as it will, and see what the community thought in general. And in a nutshell, it's this. 40% of people say no. Now, in my opinion, let me just say this. The Hogan Wrestling All-Star is the standard in our hobby. There's no
100%.
denying, right?
100%.
Now when a quote is made to say that the Prism Gold is the standard in our hobby, I'm like, well, maybe, but let's talk this through. First of all, we're probably just talking about The Rock. Maybe Andre, maybe Hogan. I don't think Gable Steveson is much anymore. I think his shine is a little less. But I'm firmly in camp number 3. I gave 3 options. Number 1, yeah, well, I agree wholeheartedly that yes, the gold Panini Prism is the most important card in the hobby. Then the second option is no. I don't believe that. And then the third is, well, maybe, just not yet. And that's where I am at the moment. I honestly believe that gold Prism is on a collision course to one day challenge that Hogan card, All-Star card, but just not yet.
Why do you? But the question then is, why do you think that?
Because I don't think enough time has passed yet. And I don't think the hobby is matured, or the cards have matured to the point where we can tell. Now, here's the reality of a gold Rock Prism card. One of them came up for sale for $9,000. It was bought immediately, or it was buy it now, and it went for $9,000. Some of the Prism guys thought that was crazy that would happen, and they convinced the seller to kill the auction. And I remember Adam saying at the time, "No, the guy's crazy. He's left a small car here on the table." And I remember thinking to myself, yeah, like a dinky car, because in my opinion, the $9,000 was right. I thought it was a $10,000 card. To be honest with you, I still believe that those gold cards are $15,000 cards. Now, maybe the Rock might be worth 20, 25. I don't know. If you say to me, well, I know 10 guys that are willing to pay 50, that means fuck all to me. What someone's willing to pay for a card. I've had someone tell me that this is worth. Well, really, I'd like to meet the person that's out there that's giving opinions of value that you can take to the bank on. The current issues amongst guys in the hobby, and these are guys that are smart, knowledgeable guys about many facets of our industry. The crux of it is on the value of those Panini goals. So that's why I zeroed in on what do you think they're really worth? Because if you think they're worth 50 grand a piece, and versus say $10,000 to $15,000 a piece, there's a big difference, and that forms the divide that we have. There are guys that think they're worth more than some of us other guys do. Now, I honestly believe that in time, the Rock Gold Prism can challenge. Now, we don't know what's happened to the other 10. None of them come back in the marketplace, and this is easily solved if one does or two do, and we can look at them, because we know that a select gold is only worth $2,500.
Let me ask you this then, Paul. If there's people out there who think these cards are worth that much, then why aren't there people out there buying them for that much? And
well, because they're not out there for sale.
Okay.
Right? We don't have, there aren't out there. So whoever has them has them. Okay. And until they get resold, we can't put a value on them. I don't mean this in a bad way, guys, but when that first one sold and people from our hobby interfered with that auction and convinced the guy that, oh no, this is worth far more than the $9,000 that's just been offered. In my opinion, that's the lowest point that this hobby's ever seen. And I felt terrible about it. And I'm like, holy shit, really? I wasn't pleased about that, because I understand that there are some people that were very, very bullish on Prism. But the numbers that they were suggesting just didn't make any sense to me. It's like they wanted these cards to be worth that much, but there was no basis in fact for them. And this is my soapbox, and I'll die on this hill, dude. I've been doing prices for 10 years, and this is where the rubber meets the road with me. Yep. At the end of the day, I don't want numbers out there that are going to queer the perceptions of what these things are worth. And I don't want to sound like a broken record with the Rock Black. Sure. And the suggestion that maybe it's a $6-figure card, maybe it's not. But at the end of the day, like if you have all these sales around here, then you have one that's way higher than the rest. You know what statisticians do with that one that's out? They throw it away. It's called a statistical
Yep.
anomaly.
Yep.
When you have a bunch of cards that are worth 2,500, then you got one that's worth 15 grand. Well, why? And did it get paid for? That's why when, when something comes out of Prism now and it's a high number, just as we did with this Impeccable Undertaker, we question it. And rightfully so, because these values are not set in stone. And again, guys, this isn't going to get solved. It's not like we're going to be able to prove, like if all of a sudden tomorrow 4 of them sell for 50 grand, I'll be the first guy to say, hey, wrong. I apologize. I retract everything I said. These are the gold standard. These are the most valuable cards in the wrestling hobby.
No pun intended.
They're not today. The Wrestling All-Stars is today, and I've got the data here month after month after month to prove it. Will that change? That's why I gave the third option, because I believe that it may change. Now, if The Rock dies tomorrow, that's an entirely different thing than if he becomes president of the United States in 10 years, right? For the value of that card. There's so many variables that can come into it. But my thing is that, from a pricing point of view, we have our opinions of value and we're all allowed to have our opinions, but our opinions got the better of us, and that's what caused the rift. And if you want to get into, when we have these things on Twitter where guys don't like each other, it's all because they don't believe fundamentally in the value of what a gold rock prism is. You take that off the table, I don't think anyone's got anything to quarrel over, So that to me was the crux. Now,
and we've talked about this extensively.
Yeah, but I want to take an even further step back, and this might even be more offensive to some of the pro prism people side, but a year ago, we were doing these shows, and what we were talking about? We're talking about how, as a community, we were the most friendly community going, how we all got along, and everything was great, and we're not like football, we're not like hockey, we're not like baseball. We all know each other, and blah,
you know
blah,
how
blah.
many tweets that I have sitting up in queue in my drafts that have, because I try to put out some positivity all the time.
Yeah,
tweets,
but
how many tweets I have talking about what a great community we have, and I don't feel right putting this out right now because it's kind of not that way right now.
Well, here's what happened. Prism happened, right? Prism happened, and then along with Prism came a bunch of guys that were super jazzed on it, proponents, if we will, Prism boys, whatever you want to call them, and I don't want to place, Adam Gelman is obviously the most outspoken of all these guys.
Sure.
And, he's brought a lot to the hobby. He's obviously on Twitter a lot talking about this stuff, so I don't want to put this all at his feet, but he was one of the main guys pushing for the value of Prism, right?
And he has to live and die by his opinions on that. So I guess so.
Yeah. And he's the first guy to admit that. Yeah, maybe I missed the mark a little bit. Of course, he has economic reasons as to why, and there's 100 reasons as to why it happened the way it did, and was it a pump and dump, and wasn't it, and on and on. We don't, the proof is in the pudding. Yep. We're talking about an $1,800 box that we just referred to at $200 or $225. So that ship has sailed. Prism failed monumentally on that front. Insofar as these golds, though, they still have a point. Perhaps these gold rock prisms or Hogan prisms or Andre, and Andre is the guy that never surprises me, can easily trade for that. Someone gets a gold 9 Andre rock prism. Can it sell for 55 grand? Hell yeah, it could, but not yet, and will it happen? I can't say when. I just don't believe that they're there yet. And again, that's just my opinion. My opinion will change based on fact when I'm shown it.
Sure.
But until then, it's a drag that we've had so much dissension and upset caused over just a fundamental difference of opinion on where the value of one particular subset of cards is. But as far as I can tell, that's what it is. Now, going back to my statement with how we all got along. Prior to Prism coming out and, the onslaught of commentary from Adam and everybody else, we used to live, people used to say we lived in our bubble, our own wrestling bubble, So now,
which there is truth to that.
Well, I'm getting to this because some of this I don't accept, all of a sudden, and it seemed like it was just on the eve of Prism coming. All of a sudden now we're in the greater sports card world. So now all the rules of rookie cards apply to us. And the blanket statement that the gold prism is the standard in the hobby is true. It is, right? So all of a sudden that now applied to wrestling. But I'm like, hold the phone, guys. We don't know, if we're a sports card. We haven't settled the non-sports yet.
Yeah, that's a debate for ourselves.
Now if we're no different than a Charlie's Angels card, then your rules don't apply. Your rules of the hobby don't apply. Or we at least have the right, you know, before we get sucked into the greater world, and we all have to say, oh yes, you know, the gold prism hobby, or sorry, the gold prism is the standard in the hobby. I say, well, give us a second to look and see what's happened and sort of evaluate for ourselves, you know, like, and it's not only that, but you know, the rookie discussion, all of a sudden, you know, I like what Matt from I like what
that's
Matt from
always
Main
been
Event said. He said, you know, look, I was born in 1980 before they came up with these rules. So was I. I go with whatever came first on a card, but I won't dare call it a rookie because I don't want to offend anybody, or I don't want to get into discussion because it's a non-ending cyclical
I
discussion.
know, and
You
I'm
know,
in that same boat. I was born long before
correct,
that too, and so
correct.
you know, I consider cards for me. That's why I start using first appearances. I don't even
Yeah.
like using. It's probably the number 2 or 3rd question that I get messages
But
for.
this
It's like, oh,
notion
it's
that
just a rookie
when
card.
Panini Prism came into the marketplace, now all of a sudden the wrestling card hobby, well, we better watch ourselves, and we're going to learn real fast on what the real hobby world is all about. I'm like, what the fuck? And I was hearing from people about, oh, set collectors, you know, they don't stand a chance and they're going to go screaming for the hills. I'm like, excuse me, I'm the largest set collector in the world. I'd really like to hear more of this, please. Like, I mean, it's here. You know, tell me now, you know, what Panini's going to do to me. Well, so you guys know I've got every set so far, including the select. I'm on my way to Impeccable, and I'll get them all. I'll survive this. The notion that all of a sudden we as a group were like a bunch of little children that just needed the hand holdings of these other sports to come along and anoint us and say, okay, wrestling, you know, you're good now, but by the way, we have these rules. We have these rookie rules that we expect you to follow, you know, and no disrespect intended to Ryan with his thought of what the MJF rookie should be. I disagree 100%. You know, first time I see it is the first, that's all I care about. And then that's the end of the discussion for me. And yes, what applies to other rules in the hobby may apply to wrestling, but they don't, you know, it's not for sure because we're not even sure if we're a sports card or not, you know, and that debate's never been discussed. So it turns out that 40% of us don't agree, but it's interesting. The 60% is 30% saying, yeah, the gold prism is the standard for wrestling. And another 30% agreeing with me saying, not yet, but maybe one day. And I do think it's on a collision course, and under the right sort of circumstances, somewhere down the line, yes, I think it's possible that it might be the gold standard. I just don't think it's there today. Do you agree?
I agree with that. Yeah,
Oh.
I'm not a fortune teller. I can't tell you the future is going to be like that,
Who
but
can?
the data is there. It does suggest that. So down the road, I mean, shit, you know, Wrestling All Stars has had what 40 plus years of
Yeah.
jumpstart. So let's give this gold a little chance before. Let's give them a couple of years before we can finally, you know, figure out if this is going to be the standard.
Exactly. Exactly.
We can't just go ahead and all of a sudden like this is the anoint this as the new champions like that. Like
right.
You gotta,
right.
you gotta.
That's what happened.
You gotta earn your stripes here, buddy.
That's what happened. And you know, I feel sometimes, you know, I feel sometimes that when these guys speak, they're speaking to me when they say these wrestling guys, they just don't get it or we don't know, you know. Fuck all haters. That really set me off. You know.
Yeah, I've got
I'm not a hater because you know because I don't agree with you. You know.
I'm very tempted. I actually have been. I've told you offline here that I've been getting back into some writing lately. It's like that. You know, back in my old days, I used to write, just write usually thoughts, or I write songs, or I write poems like that. And I used to write that down, you know, in a notebook kind of thing. Sometimes on a napkin. At a restaurant, I write out on a napkin. A thought came to my head, and I'm kind of getting back into that using my phone now. And so I just put that in my notes and my drafts in an email. And usually it's almost all exclusively about the hobby right now.
Yeah.
And I write down my notes, and it's kind of therapeutic for me. I can get kind of just take some thoughts, and it's a lot better than having a talk like you and I are talking right now, recording an episode, because we have our bullet point notes, but a lot of what we talk about is off the cuff.
Sure.
Just what comes to our mind, and
yeah.
Oh, maybe I should have said that, you know, kind of thing. And I never.
Well, I try not to think about in advance what to say because then it sounds it's not a true sort of just chat amongst buddies, you know.
It's not an emotional. I mean, I come back and I like, oh well, you know, I didn't mean to. Such and such might take it the wrong way, and I hate that feeling. I hate having that.
We can't. We know we can't.
I know.
Happy.
A word or a phrase.
I'm friends with guys that don't like each other. Like you know. Anyways, you mentioned Wrestling All Stars, and that's a good segue to our last discussion.
Well, I was going to finish my thought here on the writing aspects. Like, so it's probably going to, I think, manifest itself into maybe start bringing back some WTC shorts or something like that. Nice. I might start doing that just because I don't want to do them. Like, I get hot-headed about a topic or something like that right away. And I think I'm old enough and wise enough now to go, you know what, now is not the time to record this because it might come off as being
Right.
one-sided or the other, or it might come off as being too harsh.
You don't mean
Let
to
me,
offend.
yeah, I don't mean to, I never mean to
No,
offend it. And I
no,
always
me
have,
neither.
I try to play Switzerland and stuff like that, and that comment can be thrown back in my face by
Yeah,
other people. And I don't care
you get in trouble
because,
for that sometimes.
well, and you know
You know?
what? And that's fine. I'll take
Yeah.
that heat because you know,
No, fair enough.
I think it's the right way to go because I have to think about the greater good than the minority of people who want to say that you should side with me and only me.
No,
I
you
don't
can't
think
do
that way.
that.
I
Well,
don't think
we're
that way.
unfortunately now, just with these years of doing this, we've become friendly with a lot of guys in the hobby. I know a lot of guys,
100%.
and I like a lot of guys that don't like each other, and that
Yeah.
puts me in an awkward position sometimes.
Same with me.
Like, anyways, you just
But
mentioned,
I want to be able to, you know, the writing has been helpful, and I think I'm going to probably somehow turn that into some sort of topical ideas for
yeah,
these
and
videos and
if
shorts.
you find Tony that writing them down is therapeutic for you, but just talking into a microphone doesn't work, save them for our next show. And
Sure,
then we'll do a little segment called Tony's Notes, where you can just read off some of the thoughts you had throughout the month, and then we can,
100%. I'll just read
and
it.
I can give
I'm just going to read
you
it
my
exactly
feedback
as
on them.
written. I'm going to read it exactly as written. So,
Right, because that's what you're feeling on the moment. Because yeah,
yeah.
when we do these, I don't, other than what topics we're going to talk about, I have no idea what I'm going to say next. But I know what I'm going to talk about now because you just
Okay,
mentioned Wrestling All Stars. Can we talk about hoarding?
let's talk about it. I know we talked about this before. It seemed to be touch a
Well,
button.
only because we're getting at stuff that causes rifts and cause controversy. And our show now has become not just talking about prices and what's going on with wrestling cards, but we talk about what's going on with us, the people within the hobby.
Yeah,
And even that in and of
because
itself.
us within the hobby are what make up the hobby.
Precisely. And not even in and of itself. Some people say you guys shouldn't be talking about people. You shouldn't be talking about what they collect. You should only be talking about the cards themselves. And some people like Ryan, for example, said, no, they're inextricably linked. The personality of the person translates to the way he behaves within the hobby, et cetera, et cetera. And for us, since we've gone down that road before, we've talked about some of the things that have set people, and we just went through the gold prism thing, and we know that
Sure.
that's the main topic. But you and Zan have a little podcast called Worlds Collide,
Yep.
and you decided to do a show on hoarding. And I gotta say that I think just by the way you guys prefaced it, I think you guys knew going in that you might ruffle a few feathers just with the topic itself, because I remember.
And full transparency, at the time when we recorded that, I did not think that. That
Well,
wasn't.
it was mentioned though. It was mentioned that this was going to be a bit of a cooker or something along those lines.
Yeah.
This might,
Well, at the beginning, I know Zan preferenced that by saying that
right.
there might be somebody. I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal, to be honest with you. I really did.
No, but it
I
ended
don't
up.
even
It
know.
ended up being.
Typically, the show topics on that channel for that episodes are things that I shoot off to Zan as ideas, and he
Right.
writes them down, and we kind of just further, add to it, kind of thing. So I'd say probably a good 80% of the show topics are things that I throw out on my, in a
Right.
text message like that, whatever. And that might have been mine. I don't remember if I came up with that particular topic. I probably did. I just thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about it, but I didn't think it all the way through. I was like, will this offend somebody? Is it a bad thing? I guess, well, that's kind of what we're gonna have the episode for, to talk about that,
Right.
I guess.
And
how the reaction it got was
that's
not what I
always the risk
expected.
you run when we do a public thing like this, and I might say something that's going to be offensive to someone, or
Sure.
might put someone off. And we know, like day to day, people just don't agree. But you know what? Since I got you in front of me, I'm going to give you my opinion on it and
Sure.
talk a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Let me just say at the outset, though, I thought the coverage was very even. I thought that you presented both sides, like you and Zen. I thought that you didn't just rip on all the negatives. You also said, well, here's some of the reasons, why this could be an issue.
I think it's
But,
important that every issue we talk about, we have to have pros and cons. Have
yeah,
to. Otherwise, it becomes a
I thought you
bashing
did that.
episode.
But let's talk about, let's elephant in the room, cards on the table. We're talking about David Peck and the Hulk Hogan All Stars. There are other people that would apply to, but clearly
Sure.
he's at the crux of that conversation. And not surprisingly, he reacted to it. Right. And, again, nobody's intending to piss anybody off.
Nope.
When someone is called a hoarder, when someone is called as hater, when someone is called as gatekeeper, and we're going to refer to all those terms in a moment. But I'm just going to give you guys my 2 cents worth. And again, please, guys, this is just my opinion on it. All right. In my opinion, David Peck is not a hoarder. It's a misuse of the term. It's inappropriate to even think that that hoarding applies in David's case. Like hoarding is a psychological disorder that's associated with greed. That you think of people in their basements with shit, chalk and gel full that they can't even move around. You know what I mean? That is not what's happening here with these cards and David Peck. And by the way, David knows I'm going to be talking about this. So when you're mentioning Peck a lot,
Yeah, I know. He gave you. You guys
yeah.
talked about it. So.
Well, he didn't tell me not to say his name. Put it that way. Look, guys, David might have say 30 All Stars. I don't know what it is. Out of a total universe of 2,000. If it was 30 out of 100, then maybe, but out of 2,000, like if you wanted Hogan All-Star, you can go on eBay now. There's going to be more than 30 for sale. I guarantee you. You made the comment that, oh, Chuck doesn't have one. Well, Chuck doesn't have one because he's never gone and bought one. He doesn't have one not because David Peck has 30 of them. And that's the reality of it. A lot of people, when they think about hoarders, they think about grabbing a scarce resource and hiding it. David doesn't hide anything. He puts them out there for people to see, and the best way I can sort of describe it is, in my world of real estate, I sell in investment properties. And in the city of Toronto, there are some particular types of bi-level duplexes and triplexes that are very desirable, but they're hard to come by now. And that's because smart people many, many years ago saw the opportunity with them, started buying them, started rehabbing them, started getting involved with landowners associations and stuff to improve their profile. Now, when I deal with new clients, they're like, oh, this family such and such hoards all these kinds of building. Well, no, they don't. David Peck was a Hulk Hogan fan. He bought a card, liked the look of it, end of story. Then he realized smartly that, oh, if I grade this, because wrestling cards weren't being graded then. Rob might have started, but there was no market there. And he saw what was happening. So he grabbed another one. Now, it wasn't his business to it's like a guy who sells stock short. They survey a market. They look for their opportunities, and then they go in and make their kill. And David did the exact same thing. He bought a product. He rehabbed the product per se by getting it graded, by improving the value. Then he went on the forums and he started bolstering the market. Now people say, well, why wouldn't he start selling them? Well, I get accused of the same thing for all these cards. I'm not a hoarder. I only have one. But people say, well, Paul, why don't you sell them? Because I'm a fucking collector. That's what we do, right?
Right.
David is a collector. He has an investment wrestling portfolio, right? And he is the best one on the planet. And when people say he's a hoarder, I'm like, what? So that's just my opinion. But there's a big difference, like there's a pack rat, or should I say peck rat, and then there's people that have problems. That's not what's happening here. And again, forgive me if I've offended anybody, but I don't think that applies. I don't think that he's a hoarder. I don't think that he's a hater. A hater is just someone, according to Adam Gelman, that doesn't like gold prism. And I don't think he's a gatekeeper. A gatekeeper is someone that blocks people from coming out. Well, for years and years and years, Peck and England and these guys did nothing but promote the value of these cards and talk about them on the forums. In the last couple of years, of course, with what you've done, what Zan done, what the Tancredis have done, and myself and everyone else talking about it, the hobby's got a lot more exposure. There's a lot more of us interacting with each other. There's a lot more going on. Nobody cared about how many all-star cards Peck had 2 years ago, but they do now. Why? So again, I just wanted to set that record straight. My opinion only.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
So sorry, buddy. You're not a hater. You're not a gatekeeper or a hoarder.
Well, if I came across that episode by saying anything else like that offended somebody like that, I apologize for that, but that was never the intent.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted it to be clear insofar as who we were talking about, because, you dance around the issue. It's very clear as to what like everybody knew who we were talking about and what cards we were talking about. And David reacted to it, and right or wrong, I just thought that, I wanted to give my opinion, just wrong choice of words there. That's all. Just like maybe bashing might have been the wrong choice of words for when someone's ripping on those cards because they really don't like not so much the cards, but the people that own those cards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyways, we'll wrap it up. So a couple of things. The All-Star Sheets auction is well underway, sitting at $2,800 on Heritage Auctions.
Super surprised by that, actually.
I would have expected higher, but you know what? The guy that's going to spend the money is going to make his move at the end.
My typical auctions.
I'll be honest with you, at $2,800, it's not far off from the offer I made to her originally. So seriously, like they could be mine now if that's where they end up.
But I hope it's somebody, maybe help it somebody we know within the hobby like that ends up picking those up.
I would hope.
They're just beautiful pieces of their artwork, man. Those uncut sheets are they're a piece of the wrestling card history.
From one realtor to another, I wouldn't mind if Danny makes a play for them.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. Well, actually, wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. And you know what, though? Despite the fact that there's a $2,800 All-Star sheets on Heritage. At the moment, we have a Hogan PMG sitting at $45.50 on eBay. And that's just one card, the Upper Deck Hogan. And
Yep.
that's going to be a big number. So we're going to be talking about that next month. And that, in fact, might be a bigger deal than the All-Star sheets.
Probably will at that price point.
Hard to say.
Yeah.
Hard to say.
It just seems like the All-Star sheets, again, like any auction, it's going to be a lot of last minute play on that. But
Yeah.
I'm a little shocked to see that it's not at least double that price at this low. And even at double the price,
It's early. We still
low.
got
It's still
another
low.
couple weeks to go, I believe. But
Yeah. So,
so
it's
let's see what else I
second week
got.
of November, I think.
That's number 10. Upcoming anniversaries for WTC and WCPG. Yeah, you know what? It's 10 years for Price Guide in like a few days, and you're coming up to your 20th anniversary in a month.
Yeah.
So I was going to try and surprise you and do a roast, but that's not practical. So I was going to get in touch with Zan and say, okay, let's tear the shit off Vela. But then I thought, nah.
Feel free to.
Well, we want to do something. Chuck and I were talking about the Christmas episode. He wanted to make sure that we didn't miss that. So
We're going to definitely be doing that.
I said, we'll do our Christmas episode, but we're going to have to talk offline about what we're going to do specifically to celebrate the two sites and all the people that have helped us along the way. Because, you know, it is a community and we do
It really
appreciate
is. I mean, 20 years ago, there was, you know, I got connected to you guys like that. That's how through emails,
right.
you know, offering up some information like that. But like I've said many times before, the site itself was originally based on my personal collection. And
Yeah, mine too.
just kind of archiving everything. And that's
Yeah.
kind of how it grew. It just grew.
The original spreadsheet, which was the first table on Price Guide, was just pulled out of my personal collection. I still have that's the longest running file I've had going is I've had my personal spreadsheet of wrestling cards going since the day Google Sheets came online. So the day that they started was the day I pulled over and started. So however 20 years, whatever that is, that's how long a file, and it's something stupid like 15,000 lines now.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I mean, everything, you know, several hundred sets, you know, like it's big. And, you know, you look at it and it's big, but when you see it on a computer, it's really fucking big.
I know.
You
all you gotta do is look at that file size and go, wow, it's growing.
So anything else, sir? We've covered a few things. Hopefully we didn't set too many people off.
No, I mean, it's such a weird, I'll close it up with this. I think it's a weird market we live in now, weird hobby we live in right now, where it's almost like some days, I don't want to get personal with like my mental health. I occasionally will put up posts on mental health type of things like that because
you mentioned that
it's something important to me. But with a long history of things and people that are close to me and friends now that I talk to that, you know, can relate to things. It's just the market and the hobby itself, it becomes unfun at some point. And if it's not fun, then why do you do it? And I think it'd be
we just went through a weekend like that.
Of course. I mean,
we just went through a weekend of upsetting people unintentionally and just a whole lot of nonsense that happened that we won't share here.
Yeah, it's just nonsense, and it just makes you feel like you don't want to. Like, what am I doing here? Like, what am I doing in this hobby?
Yeah, but think back to Atlantic City. Think about those 3 days, right?
It was wonderful.
Exactly. That's what.
Great. You know, even being around, if you're mingling around with other people like that, maybe not necessarily you don't even like them kind of thing, but you're mingling around with them, you still, you know, you're playing, being respectful, and you're still being cordial, and you're still trying to look at the bigger picture and get better for the hobby in general, like that. So, you know, days of me being upset about like, well, why is someone doing this when we already do this, blah blah blah. I'm done with that. I don't care. I just don't care. I don't care. I'm going to continue to keep doing what I do. I already know that I get.
Dude, we're in our 50s.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to just continue to keep doing what I do. I already know that I'm getting, you know, communication from grading companies and this, that, and the other that, you know, use us and
don't discount what you've done. Don't let the chatter, don't let the upset amongst people get, you know, I don't.
Sometimes
I try not to upset people. You saw, like, you know, I upset Adam. Didn't mean to. Maybe I don't know. But I picked up the phone, I called him, and we talked it through. You know, these things are going to happen.
And these are parts of growing as a hobby that maybe a lot of longtime wrestling card collectors again aren't aware of, because our market is bigger now than it ever had before. And so maybe these are things that we're not aware of.
I think if the tone is good, a difference of opinion is fine.
Sure.
It's again, fuck all the haters and block caps and this kind of thing, this sort of dissension, and these people need to be educated, and just this notion that we're a bunch of children or a bunch of morons or whatever we are,
Yeah.
that's like, oh, hang on, what gives you that idea? You know what I mean? That people from outside our community, like, we're the nicest guys in the world and we're willing to play ball with anybody,
Yeah.
But far be it for me to roll over and say, because you say this is $100,000 card, I'm going to say, oh yeah, really? Yeah, let's talk about it. No.
I get it. Yeah. And just, I got to learn to better, block out all of that kind of stuff. And, when I have friends like you and Chuckster that
Yeah.
kind of, talk me in off that ledge.
There's many friends within the community. So,
Well,
there's a
many, but
lot of people
if I gotta go with
that
my
we
closest
interact with.
guys, I gotta go with my closest
Yes,
guys. It's you guys like that,
I know.
And it's just sometimes I need that, and I have a lot of maybe I put too much pressure on myself too because I have a lot of stuff going
You've done a
on
lot.
here.
You've got a store coming, and you're trying to build this channel and trying to get more views, and you're just trying to do something.
Trying to do something for the hopefully for the betterment of the hobby. And when I'm long gone, who's going to carry on that tradition? Who's going to carry on knowledge? Who's going to carry on?
Yeah.
At least it's got a place to archive, I guess, to that information. And so it's just I don't
Well,
have time.
that's why honestly, the new breed of guys like Card Foundation and Nick and these younger guys, they're going to be the guys when we're gone. I mean,
Yep.
like when you took your hiatus, Chuck and I kept things going to the point that when you
Yep.
came back, we were able to salvage it all, no problem at all. There's going to come a time when you're done, when I'm done, when Chuck's done, and we're going to pass the mantle, and it's going to be these guys. It's going to be these young guys now, and I made the joke with you the other day that Adam Gilman's got 4 young sons, so I wouldn't be surprised if the hobby is overrun by Gilmans eventually.
Yeah.
And they're going to be the guys that are going to carry this on for us,
And I got maybe I can get my son trained and have him start.
Yeah, maybe.
He'll be 4 in a couple of months, so I better start training him real quick here. He's got cards.
Yeah,
he's
certainly has the right brain to pick. That's for sure.
We'll see. But I think that's all we got for this month, guys.
That's it, guys. Have a good month. We'll see you December.
We'll see. We'll see you in December, and if not, sooner. Who knows? We'll see what's going on. But as always, you guys can subscribe to the channel. It'd be great if you just subscribe to the channel. It just helps. It's free, man. It doesn't cost you a dime. Just hit that subscribe button. I'm not even asking to turn the notifications on. It'd be nice if you did, but you don't have to. But just subscribe, share. We want to get the hobby, our knowledge. We've got collectively between us, we got if you combine our total years, like over 70+ years of collecting knowledge here, just between the two of us. Just getting it out there. Yeah. And I like to think we kind of know what we're talking about, and we don't know what we're talking about. We try to get guests on that can help us out. But just share the word. Go to WrestlingTradingCards.com. You can check out all of our social media platforms at the bottom of every single page. Subscribe to all those different things. Follow, tweet, whatever you want to do. And for Price Guide, man, go to the Wrestling Card Price Guide, WrestlingCardPriceGuide.com, and go check out. Yeah, actually, I didn't even tell you that. I got an email from someone, a message from someone recently who sent me a link to your page and said, "Do you know who owns or is a founder of the site? It's incredible."
Really?
Yeah.
So you got my email in, huh?
I got your email. It was on. Someone sent me a Facebook message like that and asked me if I knew. I go, as a matter of fact, I do know who that is.
I think I know who that guy is.
Yeah, I might know that guy is. But guys, thank you again.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Tony.
Hope you got something out of this, and until next month, guys, we'll talk to you then. Okay. All right. Wow.
For the things you love, do what